Mistakes mostly happen because of the ambiguity we go through when there is a similarity between different situations. While we may believe what we remember about a long past event as accurate, oftentimes, it is the opposite. Drawing from such a backdrop, we tend to misstep while judging tasks, or during the course of action. Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Mind Brunch. This is the third video in the series on Design for Error. Jens Rasmussen, an engineer from Denmark, has classified behavior into three modes: skill-based, rule-based, and knowledge-based. Skill-based behaviors are a result of the level of expertise within a domain. An error with respect to such behaviors are slips. Rule-based behaviors are routines that follow a pattern or a set of steps in completing a task. An error is mostly a slip, like skipping one of the steps unknowingly. There is, however, a chance for the wrong diagnosis to take place, in which case, a wrong rule is applied, and a mistake occurs. Knowledge-based behaviors come into the picture in those situations that are unfamiliar, like planning for a new task during testing or including changes triggered by feedbacks, thus involving reasoning and problem mitigation. Let us now explore mistakes that happen when each of these behaviors is in play. Rule-based mistakes may lead to large-scale disasters, like in situations when genuine danger is thought of as otherwise, and necessary action is halted. In industries, some mistakes might occur in spite of choosing the correct rule. It might happen so, since rules are mostly formulated for ideal situations, thus rendering them inefficient while tackling critical, real-world problems. Wrongful interpretation of rules can also result in unforeseen mistakes. As discussed earlier, obscure similarities with past events might trigger selection and application of certain rules, which our brains might have us believe are totally applicable in those situations. This behavior is biased in nature, influenced by how recently the past event occurred, how regular such events happen, and how different the event at hand itself is, in relation to others. Rule-based mistakes befall in such situations, where a deluge of information hits the worker, who is also tasked to make important decisions. In other cases, minor issues compounding over time, unite to become an inescapable tsunami that hits out of nowhere. As an illustration, consider a home where some light bulbs are loosely fitted, that need to be shaken a bit to switch on, or a faucet that leaks, and other things we postpone working on, since they might not need immediate attention. But such an attitude might be harmful in a factory, in a manufacturing unit, or other important establishments like a power plant. A little deviation from normal doesn't always warranty an immediate attention. These workers provide themselves a certain range, in order to work with comfort. Else, they might not be able to complete normal, everyday work. But in times of impending disaster, small deviations can add up, and pose a difficult question for the operators, who, under such enormous stress, can make a wrong move. Surely, such events are very rare, but when they do occur, everyone is caught unawares. Investigations might reveal that a very simple mistake on the part of the operator could have made the difference, except, placing oneself in the shoes of the said person, in similar circumstances, might help us empathize with those deemed guilty of failure to prevent a disaster. Design changes need to be made so as to provide data for easy interpretation, such that future calamities can be prevented. Knowledge-based behaviors, as discussed before, come into play on untested grounds. Skills and rules are more behavioral in nature, making most of it subconscious and automatic. Knowledge-based actions are slower and consciously undertaken. Good manuals can help us wade through uncharted territory on most days. However, an intelligent computing assistant provides the promise to offload high-level problem-solving and assist us in making better decisions. Although it happens rarely, an interruption in the earlier stages of carrying out a task can make us forget the final goal of the activity that we're undertaking. As such, we may end up proceeding towards a wrong goal. This is a normal premise for a memory lapse-based mistake. Similar to handling memory slips, relevant information needs to be displayed and communicated to the user for easy recognition. A recurring aspect of human errors is this. No matter how deep we research into the different aspects of errors, we cannot excuse the critical component here, ourselves. An often overlooked aspect, contributing to design and workplace errors, is social pressure. Although it might seem counterintuitive, even with regards to design, social pressure needs to be understood ahead of successfully solving human errors. Sometimes, teams are composed to investigate accidents, in part, to overcome individual bias. However, if the diagnosis of the issue itself is flawed, then the entirety of steps taken henceforth will lead to a wrong conclusion. It is observed that taking breaks between discussions, as well as introducing third parties into the analysis, helps greatly. The former is especially effective, as small breaks can help us get refreshed and focus on the issue with new vigor. In commercial workplaces, there are certain expectations that need to be met. Many installations, like a power plant, need to be kept running at all times. A momentary shutdown will have huge consequences. And for a worker, the priorities are set such that small deviations aren't as important as ensuring a continuous flow of work. In other instances, seniority will come in the way of objective thinking. Researchers have observed that, in the events leading to many accidents, the junior associate, who, although was correct, had to eventually follow the flawed directions of a senior. This holds especially true in some accidents involving airplanes, either aground or mid-flight. An innovative solution is to incentivize safety above all else. Should a worker halt the operation to attend to a safety-related issue, they should be rewarded, and a culture must be built upon such acts, wherein it isn't always necessary to complete a task on time. A notable example is seen in the world of scuba diving. Weights are normally used to help the divers overcome buoyancy. However, it was often found that divers would hold on to those weights, even when the latter would obstruct their way back to the surface. One of the reasons for this is the high cost of weights, and a perceived social pressure to not come across as physically weak. But when faced with alarming statistics about the risk of such actions, an instructor decided to replace weights for those divers who let go theirs, in order to get to the surface, safe and secure. In summary, overcoming social and cultural pressures are the most critical, yet toughest areas of preventing errors, since this involves changes, not just in design, but the way a company itself operates. This was part 3 of the series on Design for Error. The main source is the book, The Design of Everyday Things, by Don Norman. You can find the link to purchase the book in the description, down below. What are your thoughts on the perceived social pressures that contribute so much towards errors? Share them in the comments section. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new, and share. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you for watching this episode of Mind Brunch.